All right. If anyone in chat can hear me, just push one. All right, I got a confirmation. Thank you for that confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 563, Black Blockchain Talk. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. Those posted on the community tab. The docket and description will be the video for you to follow along with. If you want to engage in discussion, there'll be a link in the chat for you to click on. When you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. All right, let me get started because I'm vastly late on this. So, all right, this is from Coinbase.com. Introducing Rosetta. Build once, integrate your blockchain everywhere. This should be interesting. At Coinbase, we believe a thriving and open ecosystem is necessary for the promise of crypto to be realized, ultimately leading to our vision of more economic freedom for the world. As early as 2016, the Coinbase Secret Master Plan started our commitment to the open source communities around crypto protocols. And last year, we outlined our strategy of connecting and growing the crypto economy. Today, we're launching Rosetta, an open source specification and set of tools that makes integrating with blockchain simpler, faster, and more reliable. This is a step forward toward our commitment to support an open ecosystem. Coinbase initially developed Rosetta as the middleware used to integrate blockchains into its platform securely and painlessly. And today we're sharing it with the world in the hopes it can ease development and integration time for both developers and crypto platforms alike. The number of blockchains has grown dramatically in recent years, and with it comes, has come a proliferation of different node and wallet APIs that can be challenging to navigate. The goal of Rosetta is to standardize how to interact with blockchains, making it easy for anyone to build on top of a blockchain for a variety of different use cases. For developers of new blockchain projects, the Rosetta interface makes it easier to ensure compatibility with exchanges that use Rosetta and can dramatically speed up the time it takes exchanges to integrate with new blockchains and protect customers' funds by ensuring specific security conditions are met. For the broader community of crypto developers, Rosetta makes it easier to build cross-blockchain applications such as block explorers, wallets, and dApps. Instead of writing custom parsing for every supported blockchain, applications can use a blockchain project Rosetta implementation to read on-chain data and construct transactions in a standard format, minimizing code and simplifying maintenance. As open source software, Rosetta is easy for anyone to contribute to, and some blockchain teams have already started providing feedback and support. The teams include Filecoin, Celo, Near, Oasis, Coda, Ontology, Cadena, Handshake, Blockstack, and Sia. A guide to Rosetta, including full documentation, can be found here. The website also includes common development issues that incorporate lessons learned from our years of conversations with blockchain developers and customers. We hope these lessons will be uniquely valuable for new blockchains that want to attract developers, get listed on major exchanges, and build great user experiences. Over time, our goal is to support a thriving ecosystem of Rosetta interfaces for many more blockchains, including Bitcoin and Ethereum, along with even more tools and community resources. So what they've done is they created what they've done is they created a hub that allows external blockchains to interact with different applications in Bitcoin and Ethereum blockchains on the platform. So you can connect the different wallets to different applications to different platforms. Basically, it's a hub. Okay. I think this is a great idea. I mean, it's Coinbase. How can you ever go wrong, right? No one ever gets fired for using Coinbase. And so I see nothing wrong with this. I think this is a great idea. I'm glad that they're doing this. This is the right time to start doing things like this. And if you haven't really gotten into blockchain as of yet, now's the time to do it. Now's the time to do it. So the white paper or the documentation is in the link in the blurb. So make sure you if you're interested in that, you'll find it in there. Let me give a shout out to everyone who showed up. Black Scorpion, DJ Moss, KD King, peace. Mega Montana, peace to you as well. Four Figures TV, peace to you. I don't have any experience with Exodus. To answer your question, Terrence Forrest Jr. Good evening to you as well. Third Ward, what it do? Salute. Black Torch, good night. Maddox, what's going on? Black Scorpion, what's going on? Jesse asks, it has surpassed AI. Not necessarily. I'm not sure where your question is going. If you can, add some more detail. All right, let me get to the next item on the docket. Oh, salary expectations. Yeah, I would say AI and blockchain are pretty much even at this point. I would say that they're both even. Because the underlying mechanisms to get either one of them off the ground is both the same. Okay, they're both the same. Especially from a linguistic standpoint, it's pretty much the same. All right, this is from CoinGeek. The unbounded possibilities of blockchain technology. Remember the hype of the blockchain buzzword in 2017? Do you recall all the promises from countless ICO startups and projects that scam billions from people all around the world? The promises they all gave concerning blockchain were just that, promises. The promise of blockchain wasn't itself fraudulent. It's all very well, but the opportunity brought scammers opportunity also, and the word was hijacked by people all over the world, somehow selling you some new blockchain idea. We had some coin that was supposed to work with mechanics, some other that was supposed to help the dentist industry, and so on. Money doesn't work like that. To truly be liquid, as cash likes to be, it needs to be operable everywhere. Then we have projects that claim to be even better than blockchain. Only they ended falling on their own words. In the end, billions were scammed on failed projects, and they all promised blockchain breakthroughs of one nature or another to unsuspecting victims. Undoubtedly, it's difficult for the casual observer to make any sense of what's happening in the crypto space. The amount of information and misinformation is painfully and intentionally laborious to sift through. But as various projects mature, there comes a clarity point. Following the London CoinGeek conference, Calvin Ari tweeted that he believed BSV had reached a tipping point with regards to public awareness for good reason. The promise of blockchain was always real, and people are beginning to realize a truth that Bitcoin, as originally conceived by Dr. Wright, was the most flawless blueprint to build a public ledger off of. You could be forgiven for not seeing it earlier, but as things mature and the evidence begins to mount, you judge projects by the fruits they bear. The eye-opening difference being that original blueprint, which today survives in Bitcoin SV, is that it is delivering. Not only has it smashed through every scaling wall, which the opposition and every competing blockchain project claimed could not be done, but it has also produced an array of on-chain projects, startup applications, and ideas that are ready to build the next generation of the internet. And virtually every promise of blockchain that was made in 2017 has already been fulfilled in Bitcoin SV. The difference, Bitcoin SV does not promise to deliver. It has delivered already in its delivers every day. Just today, for example, BSV Scaling Test Network produced 1,367 and 10 transactions per second across a 2-hour period. This sort of sustained throughput was something that the critics and so-called experts rejected as impossible. The arguments against this are going from absurd to ludicrous. The chief argument being that all this happens at the cost of decentralization. People need to understand what decentralization is in Bitcoin. It is a binary term. Something is either centralized or it is not. With Bitcoin, what is important is that not one entity is able to alter the records of the ledger. As long as there are a number of miners, the chain remains sufficiently decentralized. But small blocks do not help with increasing the number of miners either. And this is where the argument falls incredibly flat. Miners that mine the handicap BTC, for example, have the most advanced and expensive hardware with the most elaborate setups, and they run on thin margins. Take a look at BTC and you will find 3 nodes hold 50% of the entire hash. So how do small blocks help block generation remain decentralized in? Then we have private blockchains by companies that took complete advantage of a buzzword and delivered a marketing stunt to tell their customers that their transactions are now backed by blockchain tech, as if that means something. If blockchain is the new internet, then private blockchains are the new intranet. They deliver nothing to the information highway, and they are certainly not part of the economic network of activity. But worse, they lack the fundamental security that makes Bitcoin so special to begin with. These companies are much better off utilizing a private database. In essence, that's what a private blockchain is anyway. After all, what's so immutable about a private blockchain? You can delete a private blockchain, but try to delete Bitcoin and see how far you get. Private blockchains do not work. We have come to learn a number of points of concerning what doesn't work. For example, we know volatile fees for transactions do not work. We know that forcing nodes to replicate every function does not work. We know that limiting transactional throughput does not work. We also know that endless developer tinkering on a blockchain protocol makes companies run to the hills. And so do blockchains that like to dabble in illegal matters. This is what separates Bitcoin SV from competing projects, and this is what separates the kids from grown-ups. Projects like BCH that have come to be seen as medium-sized blockers suffering an identity crisis. The developers on the project Amari Sedgwick, stated that he did not believe increasing the block size beyond 32 megabytes was the right move to scale BCH. His argument in a leaked Telegram chat was that BTC continues to be worth more, and then questioned whether their approach was ever right to begin with. But it's important to highlight just why a medium-sized block space is problematic. It kicks the can down further, and it doesn't address the root problem. Arguably, the biggest we got advanced. Arguably, the biggest project being undertaken on the BSV network right now is the EHR data project, which is on its way to bring millions of transactions a year to the blockchain. Ask yourself this one question: had BSV remained a medium blockchain, and would only consider increasing the cap if the limit was nearly reached, do you think such a company would have at all considered building on it? If your platform isn't ready, don't scratch your head and wonder why business isn't knocking on your door. Promising changes don't work well in business, particularly when the change can be addressed already. Bitcoin SV brings the unbounded possibilities of blockchain technology to global enterprise because it scales and because it works. When proponents say that BSV has already won, they mean it. We talk about the victory that is clear as daylight because major enterprise companies are already building on it. With utility comes everything that is important for miners. Companies that build on BSV today are sitting on a gold mine of possibilities. They have the potential to be the first to take advantage of new generation internet, which Dr. Wright has dubbed the MetaNet. Just how important and groundbreaking is the MetaNet? Well, there are increasing signs that the data economy is now worth substantially more than the oil economy. When we refine data and give it value as a commodity, it becomes powerful and it has a lot of value. BSV's MetaNet technology finds the direct value proposition of data and provides value to it directly. When Bitcoin becomes seamlessly with pipeline architecture of the internet itself, it becomes a formidable marriage of data and value. Bitcoin SV takes direct advantage of the fact that the data is the next oil. So I agree and disagree with this article. I think that he's hitting on to something. When I was in the blockchain conference, this conversation came up as well a couple months ago. Yeah, you shouldn't use blockchain for every little thing. Okay, packages of gum and things like that. You don't really need to use blockchain for that. But to that point, I think there's a multitude of applications and use cases that can be used for blockchain. The problem is that you have, in my opinion, blockchain snobs, people who understand distributed ledger technology at the highest level, but are very, are very protective of something that they feel leads to a lot of value. They don't want everybody getting in on the project. We can go back to the 1990s, and there were a lot of people who did not want poor people getting on the internet with laptops and desktops and stuff because they wanted to hoard all of the stuff to themselves. Okay, they want to hoard the space to themselves. We've heard these arguments before. It never goes away. We got engineering cannabis on the panel.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Hey, what's going on, bro?
Quick, in terms of blockchain and especially in banking, in the financial sector, you can see the evolution of technology. Banking usually required physical structure and all that, then it went to the internet. And now there's some banks that don't even have physical structures. They just work through banking, just through the internet itself. So I believe the next evolution will be banking done solely in the internet, utilizing blockchain. So blockchain, because now we need more free flow of information, of data from one banking sector to the other and instantaneously. We don't need something of a delay or again, we blockchain provides that simplicity, that free flow of data. So I believe in coming years, banking we will see banks basically being blockchain banks. This is just a theory where banks will adopt this technology and utilize it. Again, the article talks of private blockchain. So banks will adopt this technology and utilize it solely in the internet, and more and more physical location will be eliminated. So banking will be done in the internet with the security blocks such as blockchain or another form of security itself.
Right, but they're calling it something different now, right? They're calling it metanet, not internet anymore, right? So the
Yeah,
commoditization of data on the internet through the blockchain um, is how they're classifying it. So we have to even get used to using that term too. I'm on the metanet now, right?
yeah, and again, with the adoption of blockchain, adoption of again for different technologies like AI, will be utilized in the banking sector. Again, easy access to data, easy access for transfer, easy access to identify individuals who have that. So all these will play a part in terms of banking sector. The banking sector, I think, is ripe for evolution. It's supposed to, it's going to evolve. But the goal is what technology is going to play in that evolution. Is it blockchain? Is it AI or all that? And what new technology will be able to help again transactions transfer again the world is becoming more global transactions, money transfers, all this, businesses will need protection. And again, evolution will remove physical banks. Will be more of a online again the statement you made. So this is where I believe it's going to evolve into.
Yeah, yeah. You had somebody in the chat that says Professor Black Ops. He says Federal Reserve will block it to control the flow of money in the banking system. Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
I, yeah, I agree with that because right now, if different countries are basically adopting it, and more countries are adopting it, again, we the United States is not an isolated country. It has to do business with everybody else. And
Right.
if everybody's adopting that kind of technology and seeing the advantage of it, again, the United States will have to adopt it.
Mm-hmm.
And the United States will not be left behind by China and all that. Because remember, banking data and all that tells a story. And also with that you also have access to huge information of the layout of the land. If you know the financial structure of any country, you actually know the layout of any country if you actually have that data. So do you think the United States will let China have that kind of power? No, they will adopt the same technology and try to even make it better.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing is, China has its own economy where they can do things like this. They don't really need to wait on the United States to do anything. They'll just go do it themselves.
And again, it's like the Sputnik or when everybody when we were trying to get to space first. A country will do this, but every other country will adopt. Every other country will try to basically make sure they're not left behind. So again, it's gonna be adopted, but nobody's gonna have control of it. It's just gonna be a way. It's just gonna be assimilated into every part of our daily lives with blockchain and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities that's going to come from this. And that's why we kind of have these sort of live streams once a week so that people can actually, get ahead of the curve. You don't want to be playing catch up with this type of stuff. So,
Even I saw an article about the salaries for blockchain. The minimum salary was in the 100K. That's the minimum.
mm-hmm.
That's just maybe an entry developer. That's the minimum, and it goes to 250. So it's a high paying job. It's not easy to learn. in terms of developing code for it. It's not easy to learn, but if you put time with it, you can learn it, and it pays very well. And
Right.
again, there isn't any. I always say there isn't any central deposit of knowledge of blockchain. Every knowledge of blockchain in terms of coding and everything, I had to scour through the internet, through books, just to get a piece of what does this mean? What does that mean? How do I validate this? How do I do this? So it's not you. I promise you. Once you get into it, you will be inspired to say, okay, where's all this information? Where can I get it? The more you dig in, the more you learn. But again, you have to understand, you have to want to learn it because again, there isn't a one place deposit of all blockchain, especially in terms of coding. You have to look around and get that information.
Um, I'm having some difficulty bringing up the article. Just give me a few seconds. All right, let me just do this thing. All right, this is from Simply Learn. I think the Times of India has an issue with their site. How much do you know about blockchain? At the very least, you may be aware of its existence if you've never heard or read anything about Bitcoin. If your knowledge of blockchain is is little light, then you're about to learn about more about it. So I want to skip straight to some of the parts of the article and not waste a whole lot of information on this. A lot of time going over this. What does a blockchain developer do? For starters, we need to point out that there are two different kinds of blockchain developers. Core blockchain developers, they design the architecture and the security of a blockchain system. Blockchain software developers, they use the core web foundation and architecture built by the core developer to create decentralized applications or dApps and web applications as well as smart contracts. So these are the two areas of a developer, okay, or architect for that matter, but a developer more important. We know how popular blockchain is, how ubiquitous it is. We've gone over that before. So let me go down to the salary picture. What does the blockchain developer salary 2019 picture look like? In the word excellent, blockchain developer salaries are taking off worldwide as the demand for blockchain engineers and developers continue to soar. Blockchain developers can pull a salary that is compatible with artificial intelligence developers. According to CNBC, that's some serious money. There is a sampling blockchain developer salaries in different areas of the world. Bear in mind that these figures can fluctuate based on precise geographical location, company size, spikes in demand, and other factors. What's the salary of a blockchain developer in India? According to Glassdoor, blockchain developers in India can earn an annual average of 706,265 rupees. What's the salary of a blockchain developer in the United States? ZipRecruiter cites $157,893 for the average yearly wage for US blockchain developers. What's the salary of a blockchain developer in the United Kingdom? Blockchain developers in the UK can expect to earn an annual average of 50,278 pounds. Okay. What's the salary of a blockchain developer in Singapore? The Blockchain Council website reports that a developer in Singapore can expect an average salary of 165,000 Singaporean dollars. I'm not going to go over the rest of those. I think it's pretty self-explanatory that 157 grand is not uncommon. Okay. What does a junior blockchain What does a junior blockchain developer salary look like? Junior blockchain developers are typically assigned more supportive duties or groundwork. These tasks include debugging and repairing mobile apps, creating blockchain database application program interfaces, APIs, or even handling the user interface design and front-end development of web and mobile applications. Think of them as entry-level developers, interns, or assistants. Yeah, this is interesting because I never thought about a junior person in this role, right? A developer is usually a seasoned person. They usually don't have a short background. They're usually very well experienced, and they came from somewhere else, right? So they kind of transitioned from one role to into this. They didn't just
Yeah,
start out from college.
yeah, but but they do have internships. If you go to Indeed, they do have a lot of internship and junior developer roles, especially in Indeed, and they do pay well. Even the internship, I was surprised they pay real well, and it's mostly remote, and that's the good thing is remote.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I made a mistake in the chat with the TOS version. It should have been 1.3. So thanks for the correction. To that end, their salaries run on the lower end, although even that starting pay is quite a bundle. For instance, ZipRecruiter shows an annual average salary of $120,000 for a junior blockchain developer in the United States. This is key, right? We've talked about this before. What a blockchain developer makes, what an engineer makes, and stuff like that. I'm of the opinion that before you can even get to a developer, you probably have to walk down the path of an engineer first, right? Um, I find it interesting that you kind of, because to me, where do you come from on a junior developer side? You came from somewhere. You didn't just show up and decided to work on blockchain. That's not how this works. You had some kind of background
Yeah,
that you were working on before.
that's true because most people I met, most people when I was looking and saw it, they either came from, again, some I knew people came from data science, came from software. Because if you look at some of the criteria in terms of blockchain and AI, especially with hash, you utilize mathematics and all that, so it's similar. So yes, I know a lot of people. There's a transition, even for a junior. I
Yeah,
don't think the transition is just you just learn coding in a month and say you're a junior. Nah, that's not. I know people who have 10 years experience in software or data science, then transition into blockchain. You're correct.
yeah. Okay, so how do you find a blockchain developer job? Thus far, we have shown you that blockchain developers are in high demand and earn a good salary. That's great. But how do you get one of these fantastic jobs? Fortunately, we have you covered. The internet is your greatest ally in the quest to find the best blockchain career opportunities. Although there are countless job finding websites out there, the best site for blockchain jobs are at AngelList or Blockchain Jobs, BlockTribe, Crypto Jobs List, Indeed.com, Job List, LinkedIn, and Upwork. Okay. List of blockchain developer jobs in India, blockchain developer, Aurora Technologies, trainer, global management and services, blockchain platform developer, Union Sys Technologies, artificial intelligence training and job placement assistance. A list of blockchain developer jobs in the US. I should have read that first. Developer, Hyperledger Fabric, blockchain, IBM. I've seen that. On LinkedIn, this is a pretty popular role. I think they just advertise it. I don't know if they've ever filled the roles.
Yeah,
Blockchain
yeah,
developer,
the IBM role is popular. They have a lot of blockchain openings, especially in IBM, and it's very lucrative too.
yeah. Blockchain developer, Top Off Labs. Blockchain developer engineer, Moax Foundation. Blockchain, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin intern, Blockchain Center, Miami. So this is interesting. None of these jobs are actually entry level at all. So I would assume that a developer would actually look for a junior developer if they're trying to get in, right? You're never just going to be a junior developer just working by yourself. You're part of a team. Somebody has to be overseeing your work, right? So that's important. Uh,
Yes, they're also cheap, especially people. I think the criteria for a junior developer, you probably have to have at least 4 or 5 years experience with actual coding and software.
yeah,
And it might not be specifically Python or all that, but you still need to know how to utilize code and all that and also mathematics and all that.
yeah,
So junior developer, you still need a couple of years of experience.
yeah. Do you want to become a blockchain developer? After reading about all of the opportunities and benefits of being a blockchain developer, it would it be surprising to hear your partner in a career change? If that's where you find yourself, you'll be glad to know that Simply Learn can help you get started. So this is them selling their product. My perspective is that we given out the resources last month. The month of May was Hyperledger month at Linux Foundation. So that was everything that you could possibly have used to get yourself into blockchain. Salaries are north of 150. Okay, for a developer. For engineers, they're around 120 to about 130 in that area. I've seen them before. I've been offered a role as an engineer before. Um, I don't see myself being. At the time, I wasn't ready for that role, so that's why I turned it down. But to that point, um, I think blockchain consultant is probably going to be where you start off at, right? The consultancy role, the person who communicates business intelligence um, and analysis to the enterprise or the specific client. So I think that role is going to be um, more prevalent than, let's say, a developer or a junior developer role. A junior developer needs a senior person to oversee them. So if there's no senior person in your organization, there's no junior developer role. So a consultancy role is probably going to be way more important, uh, at least to those who are listening to this. It's going to be way more important, right? The ability to um, talk to multiple businesses or work for an organization like KPMG or something, EY, one of those major auditing firms. They're going to be the ones rolling out a lot of blockchain consultants.
And the consultancy, in terms of blockchain, what I'll tell people is first find a domain or find what you're interested in. Again, I was interested in cannabis, and I'm going into how blockchain and AI can help cannabis industry, or I'm using it in security or different areas. So again, find the domain or what you were experiencing. So if even if you're a chef or a cook or something, how can I integrate blockchain and AI in my domain knowledge? So your domain knowledge is important. Then utilizing blockchain and AI as a consultant, at
Mhm.
that point you basically now you have not only experience in your domain, now you have experience implementing and integrating blockchain and AI into what you already know. So that's where that's where the big bucks will be in terms of consultancy, understanding your domain or the area of expertise, and then implementing the blockchain and AI into it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Once you go from a blockchain consultancy role, then you can kind of see a consultant is a more of a generalist, right? Would you agree, Engineer Candace? Because you
Yeah,
don't,
consultants are generous. I agree with that.
yeah.
And again,
Mhm.
but but again, in terms of consultancy, if you really want to make that major money, you will have to basically niche down to that. Again, if I'm gonna bid contracts, I'm gonna go say, okay, I'm gonna implement blockchain cannabis industry. I'm gonna be the person known for that, and anybody who needs that comes to me. And at that point, you get the bulk of money in there because now you have that domain knowledge and you've implemented that domain knowledge with blockchain and all that. again, consultancy is generalized, yes, but to make the big money, I believe you have to be as niche down as possible and go from there.
No, no, yeah, right. You're right about that. And I was just saying, um, as a starting point, because you're not really, Gabe in the chat says no consultants are specialists typically. In blockchain, they would not be specialists because what would you be specializing in? What would you be specializing in? Blockchain is already the specialty itself. The generalization behind it is that you're working on a variety of different platforms, right? You're consulting on different platforms. Um, whether it is the traditional Ethereum or now you start talking about IOTA, you start talking about VeChain. There's like 20 different popular chains blockchains right now, distributed ledgers that many enterprises and many countries and governments are using, municipalities are using for very specific purposes. And so your job isn't to know every single detail about every single blockchain or distributed ledger or DLT, but it is to understand the business case and logic behind it that goes with it. And so that's the difference between an engineer and not the engineer, but the core developer versus the software developer, right? The software developer doesn't work unless the core blockchain developer works, which is what we're highlighting here.
And with in terms of Gabe's comment, I agree or disagree because first, blockchain is still a developing technology.
Right.
It's still growing. So a consultancy on blockchain is still growing.
Yeah.
It's not you. So again, and in terms of specialty, that's why I said you take your domain knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
what you know. If you're interested in the nuclear industry, you're interested in financial industry, you take that background, that knowledge, and you learn blockchain and learn AI, then implement that into what you know, and that's where again, that's the niche. You go into again banking, you go into agriculture. This is what you do. You take that knowledge and then implement it and integrate it with your blockchain.
Yeah.
Again, blockchain is still developing. We still have a lot to do with security aspects and even the blockchain. So again, with terms of Gabe, agree and disagree. You still blockchain is still developing. It's still being integrated. It's still being learned. It's still being utilized. Then you take that knowledge again with your domain. Then you become that consultant, that specialized consultant that deals with blockchain AI for that industry itself. But since it's still developing with AI right now, even AI is still developing. We're still trying to implement with AI, it's deep learning and all that.
Yeah.
So again, these are growing industries, but the goal is to take your domain knowledge and these new technology, integrate them, and then move forward from there and become that consultant for and go from there.
Yeah, you think about the blockchain consultant as the new business analyst, right? So that's the business analyst aspect of blockchain. They're not meant to go in there and and uh, and replace the developer's role because the developer already has that role, right? The engineer already has a role. The consultant isn't really getting that far into the weeds, right? Those sort of areas of expertise are already being fulfilled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
So you again, like you're in cybersecurity. You already know the terms, the terminology, everything. You know how everything works, network layout, all that.
yeah,
Then learning blockchain is just gonna integrate and help and basically make it better. If IBM wants that consultant to say, hey, how can I utilize blockchain to my um, cybersecurity space? How can I integrate this? But at that time, you already have that domain knowledge of cybersecurity and utilize blockchain AI. You can say, okay, this can help. This is what it can do. So, and yeah, you don't really need to know the develop. You just know the technology in there and how to integrate it with both knowledge. So that's the aspect. Yes, consultancy will be big.
yeah. Consultancy is going to be mega. It's going to be
It's
really
going to
mega.
be big, and
Yes.
especially if you niche down.
Mhm.
and walk with the blockchain and know every aspect of it and know. I don't mean you necessarily don't need to be coding everything. I just code because I love to code, but you necessarily don't need to code. But if you know how to integrate your domain knowledge and blockchain and say, okay, you can implement the blockchain here, here, and here, and this is what you can get from it, they'll cut you a check and say, okay, he knows where to implement it. He knows where to drive my developers to look into and what to look into. And they cut you a check just because you know where to drive the cybersecurity team too. So this is where the next stage of blockchain and all that into consultancy will grow. Again, like in the cannabis space, when I said you can use blockchain as a quality measurement and know how to do it, that's just what a consultant comes in and say, this is where your quality metrics and quality measurements blockchain can help, and you
Right,
can implement this.
right.
Again, they cut you a check just for that. So it's just knowing that knowledge and knowing how to integrate your domain knowledge and your the technology, blockchain and AI into it.
Yep. And then after the blockchain consultant, now you start talking about blockchain administration. Okay. It's kind of like a system administrator. And then after system admin, then you start going into, blockchain engineer. Okay. Um, we talked about that earlier. Blockchain engineer, anywhere between, it, you know, the blockchain engineer is before the developer, and then the developer moves on from there. So, and then you go into architecture, blockchain architecture. And so that's the spread of the roles that's going to come out of that. I still think there's going to be a blockchain analyst. Okay, analysts will probably work right under the blockchain admin, Hyperledger Sawtooth, sysadmin, not sysadmin, but blockchain Hyperledger Sawtooth administrator certification is already available. It's been available since last year. Hyperledger Fabric administrator has been available since last year as well. I think it was the first certification that Linux Foundation came out with. And so I'm making this point so that people understand that there is a trajectory that's starting to develop here. Um, Consultant, administrator, maybe analyst may come after that. An analyst may just be an intern or something like that, or maybe a lower role, just to monitor, um, the failed state or the maintenance of the system itself. And then you start talking engineer, and then you go into developer, and from developer you go into architect, and then you have your whole entire gamut of the blockchain itself.
I think what I think is it's going to match what AI is currently doing with machine learning, where you have machine learning engineers, data scientists, and all that. It's going to basically match similar to what is going on in machine learning currently. So you're going to have blockchain analysts, blockchain engineers, blockchain developers. So it's going to match similar to what's going on in machine learning and AI.
Mm-hmm. And I think the salaries are going to be, right in line with cybersecurity. For those roles, below the architect and developer. I think they're going to be right in line with cybersecurity. I think a lot of your security scientists are going to start moving over. AI ops is going to be important because when you start building out the blockchain itself, you got to take into consideration the AI aspect, ML aspect, machine learning aspect, deep learning aspect, DL aspect. All of these things need to be taken into consideration. And so that's where, I don't think the industry is ready to really take on this new sort of really a blockchain scientist for all intents and purposes. I think that's what it's going to start to come down to. I think this is going to go way beyond developer, way beyond architect. I think you're going to start to come up with scientists, people who can actually go all deeper into the granularization of blockchain, where they can develop things that traditionally common people weren't really thinking about, right? Um, this is blockchain to the next, nth degree. The scientists, the blockchain scientists. Actually, it's not
And the
science.
next question,
It's not scientists. It's alchemists. That's the term that we use, alchemists.
true. So the next question is curriculum, if you see schools coming with curriculum, because right now I'm seeing schools just designing curriculum for data science, and again, machine learning and all that. Schools are actually designing curriculums for that. So now blockchain is coming into play. Do you see do you see curriculum is basically being designed for just blockchain itself, blockchain development, blockchain again with IBM already adopting this technology, and I see schools basically adopting it, especially within the computer science programs on blockchain itself and all the the application of blockchain itself.
Yeah, I think for right now, let's use 2020 for example. I think between 2020 and 2025, you'll see that as a curriculum, right? Not in the public sector, but in the private sector, right? Your private universities and stuff like that. I think they're going to be the ones to jump on it. MIT has already been at the forefront. Harvard, Berkeley, they've been at the forefront of this since last year. So um, I think you will start to see more curriculums get developed around that, and more micro degrees get spun off from it.
Yeah, because most adoptions before the big schools or even any public institution or private institution adopts it, usually you see courses created online from Udemy or all that before even the university starts adopting. So usually what I usually do is even when AI and data science started popping up and being this huge um, basically huge entity itself, I usually saw it first being adopted by online courses. Then it moved into public institutions and private institutions. And I see that same thing applying to blockchain, where it's not going to adopt, it's not generally going to be adopted public institutions and all that first. You will see it again in Udemy and all that first. Then it moves into the, again, computer science department and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of this stuff is going to be online. You don't really need to be on campus for this, right? You can they can spin up simulator labs and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
you can do all your trial and error from there. But like I said, I think it's
yeah,
going to be an explosive market academically between now and 2025 until something else replaces it. I still see AI and machine learning being at the forefront. That's really in demand right
yeah,
now,
it is.
more so,
Oh God, it is.
yeah, more so than blockchain. I think blockchain has slowed down a bit, mostly because a lot of companies don't have the bandwidth, financially speaking and resource speaking, to actually lay out projects for 2020. Pandemic has shut down a lot of things. Companies are rethinking their strategy and saying, well, we don't really need to be working on blockchain right now. Let's put that project on hold until 2021.
In terms of AI, the roles are basically data science, machine learning engineer, data engineer. I'm seeing roles, and don't get me wrong, I get interviews and all that. In terms of data science and ML engineer and all that, it's continuously growing. I don't think it's gonna stop. And even right now with deep learning engineers too, I'm seeing those roles creeping up too. Deep learning engineers, deep learning scientists. The basically the spectrum of AI, it's going to basically continue growing. And in terms of salary, I'm seeing salaries 160, 170, 180, and it's just there's such a high demand again for data science, AI, machine learning engineer, and all that because again it takes time to learn this. It's not an easy task to just learn it, and you continuously learn even on the job and out of the job. You continuously learn how to apply AI, how to apply machine learning. The goal is for you to utilize all that to build an algorithm to know where the future of the company is going to go with variables you can control or not control. So again, companies are seeking because they know the importance of data, and now they're seeking, especially with the pandemic, they're seeking ways to see how they can actually navigate their company with data itself and see how it's going to be profitable or not profitable itself.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. We do have to go on 11 on the panel. I think he may be away. Um, so yeah, if you check out the live stream we did last month in May um, for blockchain talk, I forget which episode it was, but we went over all of the areas possible for you to learn. Actually, Linux Foundation had a whole entire special on blockchain for Hyperledger. Okay, Hyperledger is the fastest growing distributed ledger technology that you can get into. It's not the. I'm not saying it's the best or what it's better than. I'm saying it's the fastest growing right now because IBM is behind it. Okay, especially in agriculture, food industry, beverage industry, food and beverage industry, restaurant business, all of these, in mining. Fabric, Hyperledger Fabric is really, really popular right now. Okay, if you know Hyperledger Fabric, there's a lot of companies looking for this. Okay, now blockchain in particular, on the Bitcoin, fintech companies are really, really, really big on that for obvious reasons. Okay, Circle, Coinbase, all those companies are really looking at you know people to fulfill roles for that. Even cybersecurity analysts to to monitor a lot of this type of stuff. From when I've talked to people
Um,
a few months ago.
Mike, you said something really important. Blockchain has been adopted by just few industries,
Mhm.
financial sectors, agriculture, and all that. But it's not seen in every industry. I mean, there's a lot of industries that blockchain is still not even looked at as an option. So again, insurance, again, security. I'm talking non cyber security, even physical security. There are ways you can utilize blockchain in these industries where people have not even thought of. So your goal first is to learn this technology and take your domain knowledge and then utilize it and invent something nobody's even thought of, because right now it's still in its infancy. Blockchain has not been adopted massively in every industry. So the goal now is, if you're interested in it, learn it and be that forefront, that again, as a consultant, and be that front runner, that person that says, I understand this technology, I know where it's going to be implemented, I know how to implement it, and I can do it from here and go from there. And that's how effective you can be, because it's currently not being adopted in every industry or every sector.
Yep, yep. You'll probably start to see some of it pop up in augmented reality, virtual reality. We still haven't done a live stream on that yet because a particular subscriber of ours named Hard Fork Rich has not um, submitted his docket for that. But he'll get around to it sometime in February, so we'll wait for him. But yeah, I think we'll just close out from here. Blockchain developer salaries, highest paid right now. Um, can't go wrong with it. The blockchain is not going anywhere. It's not going to die off in the next year and a half. Not going to happen. That's going to be here for the foreseeable future. So yeah, definitely thanks to engineering candidates for coming through and co-hosting this with me. And to everyone else, just hit the like button if not already done so. Share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Shalom, everyone.